Today we're going to talk about the human skeleton and all the bones of the body. For those of you who are following along in your lab manual, this was on page 56, and it is the terms to know. So we're going to be talking today a little bit about your vertebral column, your sternum, your ribs, your pectoral girdle, as well as your pelvic girdle. For the purposes of this video, we are going to examine the bones of the skull in a separate video because there are several of them and probably easier on a larger model. So with that being said, let's start here at the clavicle. That's this bone right here that runs pretty much from the middle of your body over to your shoulders. This is known as your clavicle. It's sometimes called your collarbone, but its proper anatomical term is your clavicle. This bone that runs down your chest that your ribs connect to, this is your sternum. Your sternum is sometimes referred to as your breastbone, but that is the hard, flat bone that you feel running down your chest. Okay, next we're going to talk about the appendages, and we'll start with your arm. The bone at the top of your arm is called your humerus. Some people like to remember the humerus because when you fall on your elbow, it feels like your funny bone, humerus. You've also got two bones in your forearms, the thumb side being the radius and the pinky side being the ulna. And if you were to examine these bones individually and not on a skeleton, you may notice that the ulna forms a U shape when it joins the humerus. So you'll see an ulna on its own has a U shape. But again, humerus, radius on the thumb side, pinky side is the ulna. Okay. Next, we're going to move to the posterior side of the skeleton and take a look at the vertebral column. And you have several vertebrae, 7 to be exact, that make up your cervical vertebrae. Then you've got 12 thoracic vertebrae. Then you've got 5 lumbar vertebrae, and they all meet down here at this bone. This bone right here, it is called your sacrum. You can see it's sort of got a rounded curvature. And then at the very, very tip of that right here is your coccyx. That's sometimes known as your tailbone. It connects to the sacrum. So this is one long, this sacrum coccyx is one fused piece, and the vertebrae are separate. So now if we're going back to the anterior side of the skeleton, we're gonna take a look at the os coxa. The os coxa, as you remember from lab 1, in your anatomical terms, the os coxa makes up your hips. That makes up your hips. And then connecting into your hips over here, you'll see this ball and socket joint. This is your femur. This is the largest bone in your body. It's sometimes confused with your humerus, but if you're taking, for a point of reference for scale, the femur is much, much larger than the humerus. Okay, and then if we come down here by the knee, you can see you've got also, similar to your forearms, you've got 2 bones that make up the bottom part of your leg. You've got this thick one, which is the tibia, and I like to remember that tibia starts with T and so does thick, so that represents the medial side of the leg, and it's thick. And then you've got your fibula, which is the thin bone that makes up the lateral side.